Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine, one of my very favorite shows tonight. We are talking politics. There's plenty to talk about, everything from the State of the Union to the stock market to what's going on in North Korea and South Korea as the Olympics are headed our way. So a lot to talk about. Happy to have with us Vanderbilt Professor of History and Political Science, Thomas Schwartz. Thank you for being with us once again.
Thank you for having me on the program.
All right, so it seems like I want to talk also about control of Congress in the upcoming elections, and Donald Trump saying Democrats are treasonous for not standing up during the State of the Union. Yeah. But let's take the stock market. Okay. So we started the day thinking the stock market was going to tank. It had had a terrible day yesterday, and just the politics of it. Things worked out better. Right. It was a good day on the stock market. But generally, how do presidents deal with the stock market? Well, you know, for the most part, presidents are actually very careful about the stock market. They don't take a lot of responsibility for it because it is so volatile. I mean, people forget, for example, there was a tremendous crash in October of 1987 when Ronald Reagan was president. The economy was still going fine, and actually things were not bad relatively economically. But he basically just sort of distanced himself, calming and things like that. The problem has been that President Trump has actually actively tried to make the stock market a symbol of his presidency, and I think for that reason this fall this drop resonated more, and you had a lot of commentators saying is this some sort of an indication on Trump? In fact, I think most knowledgeable people would say that some sort of market correction was due. We had had a very upward driving market for quite some time. Some of it might have been connected to the election of Trump because of a feeling that he'd be better for the economy than Clinton, but that prices probably were overvalued and that some correction was going to take place. So because he has been so adamant in saying the stock market is great and it's in part because of my leadership, if the stock market does go down, does it hurt him? I think if there were a sustained drop that also seemed to indicate problems in the economy, and that's where the other thing, I mean, the economic news is very good right now. Wages are going up for the first time. You're in a situation which unemployment has continued to drop. So those are the hard indicators, and those are the types of things people really look at. And so a market drop that was not precipitous, that simply either leveled off, and that wouldn't really matter that much. It would take away one of President Trump's talking points, but it really wouldn't be that significant as these other indicators in the economy are. And how likely is it that it will go down? I mean, over the course of his presidency, generally the stock market goes down. It fluctuates. That's why presidents stay away from it. Yeah, no, it fluctuates, and it may go down again. It may also go up again because of the tax cut and increased consumer spending and a sort of continuing dynamism in the world economy as a whole, which is also very good right now. So it could go up, but it could also the enthusiasm could generate prices well above their justification, and you could have another sharp drop. And that question that I ask is one that you heard asked a lot last night. You know, will this hurt the president because he has been such a big trumpeter of the high stock market? Yeah. And I almost feel like in reality, what does hurt the president? He can do a lot, and there's a core group of people that support him, and I guess assess his situation right now. This might be a lot. Let's chew that off. Let's see if we can get into that. His situation is remarkable. He does things in a very unorthodox way. Right. And people say, boy, that's going to be the end of him, and it's not. He keeps on going. Right. What do you think his popularity is, and kind of assess the situation now? Well, he's experienced a rise in popularity recently, or at least a slight bump up from sort of the high 30s into the low 40s. He's going to face problems. His own personal popularity is, I think, limited by his unorthodox style and the fact that a lot of people just have a hard time seeing him as presidential. That said, the strength of the economy and the continuation of peace, this would be the other variable, would be any sort of conflict, I think, could possibly hurt his popularity, any war or outbreak of conflict overseas. But, you know, a continuing strong economy and a relative peace in the United States and continued peace and prosperity are all going to help.
They might not get passed if he picks particular issues. If you get some sort of constitutional crisis, if he fires Robert Mueller, if he acts in some other bizarre way, as the Charlottesville thing or something else that really has very bad ramifications in the country. But right now he's in actually a fairly good position. You'll have to see. He's his own worst enemy at times. Relative
to his other numbers during the course of his presidency, yeah, now it's pretty good.
Yeah, relative to it, yes.
And then there's the whole Robert Mueller investigation. Right. He's certainly been doing everything he can to discredit that. Republicans have been doing what they can in many cases to discredit that. What do you see there? How unusual is this effort to discredit an ongoing investigation? And just, again, give us context with history about this investigation.
Well, I think the problem is everyone compares everything to Watergate, which in many respects was a very different political environment, media environment, and the comparison is not completely wrong, because there are many ways in which Nixon and Trump have certain comparisons. But I think overall, you know, the effort will be to discredit the investigation. I don't think you'll have a strong reaction in the country unless there's some dramatic gesture like firing Mueller, or if there's some sort of smoking gun. Now, I think what we've heard recently is the president has been advised by his lawyers not to testify.
Right, don't testify.
Don't testify. And I think in a lot of ways that makes great sense, because I think the president could get caught in his own words. He's not got the best relationship with the truth, and he could say something that he has said that contradicts something he said before that Mueller could show is an outright lie or falsification. Remember, one of the counts against Bill Clinton was perjury, was basically lying under oath.
Which had nothing to do with the original
Which had nothing to do with the original reasons for it. And that's why I think the lawyers are sort of telling the president, you better not testify in this particular case. I think the Mueller investigation may get close to him, but may really only focus on some people around him, unless Mueller's got something else that we don't know about.
I wonder if family member could be indicted.
Right. That is a possibility with the...
That's what they say, that is a possibility.
Yeah.
And what impact would that have?
A family member could be indicted and the president could pardon him. That would look bad, but would not be necessarily, I think, fatal.
Mm-hmm. Because what is?
Yeah. True.
All right, the State of the Union. It was interesting. Then the president comes back and says that Democrats were treasonous in some cases. Now, and he gets away with some of this because I think sometimes he'll say, well, I was just kidding.
Right.
And it was kind of an offhanded comment.
Yes.
Somebody in the crowd yelled, well, they're treasonous. And he goes, yeah, maybe. Sure, they were treasonous. And so he's saying it. He's president of the United States, but then he's also, is it tongue-in-cheek? It's just this other... So it's different from what we've had.
It's different. It's a different use of presidential rhetoric. It's a willingness to use words that other presidents would have been very cautious about, or even if they felt that way, they would have had their assistants or others maybe say it so that the heat would not come directly to them. He's willing to go out there and do it. He's also, when he's off script, he is sometimes he is authentic. I think it is kind of what he says. We know other presidents on tape, when we've had it, we know they say some pretty nasty things behind the scenes, but they're much more careful. They were much more careful in their image. He's not been. It's probably a part of his appeal, but it's also part of something that I think has made many people, even independents who might have been inclined towards some of his policies, have real reservations about him.
And now we were seeing some video there from the speech. Overall, the speech, how would you evaluate the speech he gave, what he had to say?
I think on the whole it was very scripted. It had all of the things we've seen since Ronald Reagan, namely the people in the crowd to bring up points. It had some very emotionally moving points. It had he had a good case to be made on some of the economic issues. Probably the more unsettling part was his characterization of MS-13 and his treatment of immigration, which was a little bit darker than some of the other parts of the speech. But on the whole, it was actually a fairly traditional State of the Union address by a Republican conservative.
And you're a historian. How long has it been that one side doesn't stand up or applaud for the other? I mean, I certainly remember that was the case with Obama.
Yes.
I believe it was the case with Bush. It's gone back a long time, but when did that? Because it is unsettling and doesn't seem polite.
I think it has its roots probably in the 90s and the Newt Gingrich era, when you first had the shift in the House. Remember, the House of Representatives for the longest time was Democrat. It was from 1954 to 1994. You had a 40-year period of one party sort of dominating. And I think the focus on bipartisanship and a willingness to clap at the right times or clap at other times was there. I think Newt Gingrich and his contract with America and some of the things he brought with him, I think started a process of a type of polarization of attitude. I can't testify to this. My memory is a little bit foggy on whether this was as strong in the 90s that people would actually not clap. But I think some of that reluctant response has been there for a long time. As dramatic as it was this time, I think this was pretty pronounced. Yeah. And the cameras were right there. And this was a little even more pronounced than the Obama period, I thought, in terms of how focused they were on the absence of cheering.
All right, we have to take a break. We'll come back. I want to talk about the outlook for the U.S. Senate and the U.S. Congress, the U.S. House of Representatives. Kind of Republicans control both now, big election coming up. And where do you think that's headed? So we'll take a break. If you want to call, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.